Summary of The Hungry Tide by Amitav Ghosh. Kanai, a rich translator from New Delhi, meets Piya, a young biologist who studies sea animals, on the train to Canning. They're both going to the Sundarbans. Kanai is going to the island of Luzabari for the first time in 30 years to deal with a lost packet of his late uncle Nirmal's works, and Piya wants to do a study of the Gangetic and Irrawaddy river dolphins that live there. Kanai asks Piya to come to Luzabari before they get off at Canning. Kanai meets his aunt Nilima in Canning. He finds out that Nilima is still very upset about Nirmal's death from 20 years ago. Once on Luzabari, Kanai looks around at the places he remembers and thinks about what Nirmal told him about Sir Daniel Hamilton, who in the early 1900s set up a successful cooperative society on the islands. When he finds out that Kusum, a friend from when Kanai was on the island in 1970, died a long time ago, he is shocked. But her son Fokar lives on the island now and is married to Moina, one of the nurse trainees. Kanai opens the package in Nirmal's study, which is upstairs. It only has a notebook in it, which looks like it was written in over a few days in May 1979 on the island of Morichjhapi. Nirmal tells Kanai in a letter that he is on the island with Kusum and just wants to make sure that what happens doesn't get forgotten. Nilima is mad that Nirmal didn't give her the notebook. When Kanai met Kusum in 1970, she was in Nilima's care. Kusum's mother had been sold into sexual slavery, and Kusum's father had died. Kusum and Kanai became friends and went to see the local classic The Glory of Bon Bibi performed together. Kanai was very moved by the story, which is about a boy named Duki who is about to be killed by the demon Dakanrai but is saved by the goddess Bon Bibi. One night, after Kusum performed, a fisherman named Horan took her away to keep her safe. No one saw her again for years. Piya gets her passes from the forest department and starts her study with a forest guard and a boat pilot named Mejda. Neither man is very helpful or kind, and they both look down on her. When Piya sees a fishing boat, she tells her friends to go over to it so she can ask the fishermen about the dolphins. The forest guard does what she says, but Piya soon figures out that the guard just wants to find the fisherman and his son and scare them away. The fisherman tells Piya through mime that dolphins are often in the area. Piya tries to give the fisherman money as the forest department boat pulls away, but she falls into the river. She was saved by a fisherman who pulled her into his boat. Piya was afraid to go back with the forest department, so she asked the fisherman to take her to Luzabari. The forest guard lets Piya go when he agrees. The angler says his name is Fokar and that his son's name is Tuttle. He is very kind and respectful to Piya, and the next day he takes her to Gargantola, where a group of 7 Irrawaddy dolphins are swimming. Piya is shocked because the dolphins aren't acting like they should. She thinks the dolphins leave the pool every day instead of twice a year. The next day, she goes with Fokar to watch dolphins and map the riverbank. Piya is happy that she and Fokar can talk to each other so well, and their interests go well together. While Piya rows in straight lines to map the riverbank, Fokar fishes for crabs. After a crocodile almost takes Piya's hand, she and Fokar row toward Luzabari. Once they get there, Nilima asks Piya to stay with Kanai at the hotel, and Kanai agrees to help Piya talk to Fokar the next day. Kanai reads Nirmal's notebook over the course of the next few days. It tells the story of how Nirmal got involved with the Morichjhapi village after he stopped teaching. Nirmal was a well-known Marxist in Calcutta when he was young, but he had to leave the city after he was arrested and went crazy. He taught on Luzabari for 30 years, but he didn't write anything during that time. But he stayed a strong believer in Marxist theory, which made Nilima unhappy. During those years, she worked on the Babadan Trust, which helped the locals with healthcare and other services. She also started a group for women to help the many widows on Luzabari, where men often die while fishing. Nirmal began going to schools with the help of Horan after he retired. Horan and Nirmal were caught in a storm one night and ended up on the island of Morichjhapi, where they met Kusum. She took them in and told them about how she found her mother, got married, had a son, and then joined a group of refugees walking from central India to the Sundarbans. Nirmal was thrilled to hear that Morichjhapi was being built in a very Marxist way, and he offered to teach the children there. When Nilima found out, she was furious that Nirmal was involved. She said that the refugees were just renters and that the ground was protected forest land. She refused to help the island with medical care. Nirmal promised to keep his participation a secret, and for the next few months, he kept going to Morichjhapi with Horan. Kusum and Foker lived through the police siege of the island, but Kusum was upset that people wanted to kill the settlers to save animals. Nirmal finally found out that the cops would attack the island. He went with Horan to warn Kusum, and while they were there for the night, he filled the notebook. He chose to stay on the island while Horan took Foker away, and he kept the notebook for Kanai. After a few weeks, Nilima found Nirmal in Canning. He was confused and upset. He died after a few months. Piya and Kanai talk with Foker and Moina about going out to Gargantola for a week to study the dolphins. Foker helps Piya convince Horan to take them on his ship, the Mega, in his boti. Piya is upset to find out that Moina doesn't seem to like her husband. Piya is getting ready to leave when Kanai asks to go with her as a guide. Piya agrees. Nilima is worried and thinks Kanai doesn't understand the risks when he tells her he's going with Piya. She says that every week, tigers kill several people. When she finds out that he likes Piya, she says that he is also a stalker and warns him to be careful. Later that night, Moina tells Kanai that she is worried about Piya and Foker getting together, and she asks Kanai to step in. Moina gets mad when Kanai tries to tell her that he would be a better partner than Foker. The survey group leaves Luzabari the next day. Kanai gets very angry when Piya says that she loves working with Foker even though they don't speak the same language. That afternoon, the Mega's engine stops working, but Horan is able to move the boti to a village where a relative can help fix the boat. Piya and Kanai hear the sound of a water buffalo giving birth early that evening. Later, they hear voices on an island nearby that sound excited, so they go there with Horan and Foker to find out what's going on. They find out that a tiger that killed 2 people before got in with the water buffalo. Villagers who were angry surrounded the building and stuck bamboo sticks inside. Piya is angry and tries to stop the crowd, but Foker pulls her away just as the locals set fire to the building to kill the tiger. Piya and Kanai talk about what happened the next day. Kanai says that things like that happen because scientists like Piya try to save tigers at the cost of the people who live in the same area as the tigers. He says that the most usual victims are poor people, but the government doesn't care about them. The next day, Piya, Kanai, and Foker go to the Gargantola pool with Foker to watch the dolphins. Piya tells Kanai how she became interested in dolphins, and Kanai tells Foker that Kusum told him about this pool of dolphins. He comes here to see her after she has died. He starts to sing, but Kanai tells him that the chant is too hard for Piya to understand. Over the next few hours, Piya and Kanai get to know each other better, and Kanai agrees to go out with Foker the next morning in his boat to watch dolphins. Kanai tries to talk to Foker on his boat but doesn't get very far. Foker finally rows to Gargantola and shows him where fresh tiger tracks are. He tells them that Bon Bibi watches over the island and will protect anyone who has a good heart. He suggests that they go ashore to see if Kanai has a good heart, and Kanai agrees only unwillingly. When they get to the shore, Kanai slips and falls in the mud. He gets angry and sends Foker away. Kanai is startled and scared, so he crashes into the land to get away from the alligators he knows are in the water. He sees a tiger in an open area and runs away. Piya, Foker, and Horan come to his aid, but they don't think he saw a tiger. Kanai plans to go back to Luzabari after this. The next morning, Kanai leaves Piya, Foker, and a package for Piya on Foker's boat while he goes to Luzabari with Horan on the Mega. When the Mega gets to a big river, they find out that a storm is coming. They decide to go back and get Piya and Foker. When they get back to Gargantola, the boat isn't there, so they decide to wait for them overnight. While that is going on, Piya and Foker spend the day following the dolphins and find them circle a dead calf. That night, they drop anchor far from Gargantola. Piya reads Kanai's letter. It's an adaptation of The Glory of Bon Bibi, which Fokker was singing the day before. Horan tells Kanai early the next morning that he and Nirmal both loved Kusum, but that Kusum picked him in the end. After waiting for Piya and Fokker for hours, they decide they can't wait any longer and head back to Luzabari as the storm gets worse. Kanai trips as he wades to land and loses Nirmal's notebook in the fast-moving water. As Kanai and Nilima wait out the storm in the hotel, she says that the hurricane shelter in the hospital was Nirmal's one lasting gift. Kanai says he wants to write down Nirmal's story from memory, and Nilima asks if he will also write down her side. Fokker and Piya spend the storm tied to a tree on Gargantola, with Piya stuck between Fokker and the tree's trunk. After the eye of the storm has passed and the wind has changed direction, they see a tiger. Fokker dies soon after when he is hit by something big and crushed. The next day, Piya gets his boat going in the direction of Luzabari. When Kanai and Horan come to get her on the Mega, she tells them what happened. She stays in Luzabari for a few weeks and then comes back after a month, which surprises Nilima. Piya says that she would like to work with the Babadon Trust to create a protection program in the area that would help local fishermen. She would like to name the program after Fokker.
About the author. Amitav Ghosh was born into a Bengali Hindu family in the Indian city of Kolkata. Before India got its freedom, his father was an officer in the Indian Army. Ghosh went to a boys' school in India and then went to college in India and England. He went to Delhi University, the Delhi School of Economics, Oxford, and St. Stephen's College. In the 1980s, he started writing books. His first book, The Circle of Reason, was quickly praised and read all over the world. Several of his books have won foreign awards, and in 2000, he withdrew The Glass Palace from the Commonwealth Writers' Prize because he thought the rule that the book be written in English was unfair. Ghosh has taught writing at several universities in the United States, and in 2015, the Ford Foundation named him an Art of Change Fellow. He is married to another writer, Deborah Baker, and they live in New York with their 2 children.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.